Hi everyone who's attending. I see we've already got about 100 attendees, and I'm sure the number will increase as the day progresses. I'm Nirat Bhatnagar, the founder of Belongg, and super excited to kick this off formally. The first edition of the Belongg Online Literature Festival, a platform we hope will grow both in width and depth going forward. I want to very quickly cover 4 things in these opening remarks before passing it to Siddharth and to Jonathan. First, I want to share a bit about Belongg, what we do, why we do what we do, and then how we have ended up developing this festival. Second, I want to thank a few people without whom this festival would not be possible. Third, I want to quickly run everyone through the process of these next 4 days, high-level outline of the festival, how it's organized, and finally, then I'll pass to Siddharth, who will then share his opening remarks. So the first is in the last few years that I've been working in development over the last 10 odd years. I've had the privilege of working on many important problems in development, in water sanitation, agriculture, different spaces within development. But one realized that there's something fairly wrong in the way there was increasing divisiveness in society. So along different identity markers, across the world, there was increasing sort of a sense of othering based on people's religion, their sexuality, their gender, their race, and it shows up in different ways across the world. And hence the idea of setting up Belongg came about a few years ago. And then finally last year, we set this up as a platform that tries to bring discrimination-free services to people who would otherwise face prejudice because of their identity. Now, Belongg does a lot of things. And before I jump to the festival, I do want to sort of talk about 2 or 3 things in specific. The first is inclusive housing. So a lot of people, because of their identity, they don't actually get access to rental housing in certain neighborhoods, or they have to pay economic penalties. So we have a program around that, and we're trying to aggregate inclusive sort of homeowners. The second is inclusive mental health. Mental health gets exacerbated because of identity. So if you're, let's say, a woman, if you're a transgender person, if you're a Muslim, you tend to face different kinds of mental health challenges. And Belongg is trying to build a platform that brings together inclusive therapists and also knowledge resources. And finally, the third thing I want to talk about is our inclusive research collective. We're trying to sort of get researchers across the world who are focused on different parts of this discrimination matrix and bring knowledge resources. Now, coming to literature, we feel that a lot of this prejudice and bias that exists is a function of mental models and beliefs that people hold. And literature and the arts are extremely powerful tools to change people's minds. So from the very start, when we set up Belongg, we were very keen on harnessing the power of literature and the power of the arts to make this possible. So we have a book club that started doing regular book readings. And then as that built traction, we sort of came up with the idea of creating a larger platform that would bring voices from across the world, authors and speakers, translators, illustrators, publishers who write about different sort of components of prejudice, discrimination, write about gender, sexuality, race, religion, and so on and so forth. So a couple of months down the line, after this idea was sort of conceived, and we started discussing with different partners, Siddharth from The Wire and Jonathan with the British Council, we are here and we're ready to sort of launch the festival. Going forward beyond this festival, our plan is to also create a network of such cultural spaces, libraries, which bring inclusive sort of literature and readings to a lot of people. So we do invite you to sort of stay engaged. So that's a little bit about why we are doing what we're doing, why this festival. I just want to quickly thank now a few people without whom this wouldn't have sort of happened. First and foremost, want to thank all the speakers who between now and end of day Monday will come onto this platform and share their sort of perspectives, share the writing. We've been privileged to sort of get almost 80 speakers from across the world. I also want to thank publishing houses from across the world, about 25 publishing houses. Some leading publishing houses have partnered with us, have reposed their faith in us. Second, I want to thank the Wire team from the very sort of the first day when I sort of discussed this idea with Siddharth. The Wire has been fantastic. They've been super supportive. So the entire team has just been incredible. So thank you for being so generous with your time and with your thinking there. Third, I want to thank Jonathan, Devika, and the others at the British Council. Again, from the very first discussion, there was great resonance, and thank you for sort of bringing such rich programming to the festival. Next, I want to thank Siddharth and his team at Access for All. Thanks to Siddharth, we've now made 12 sessions accessible for people who have hearing disabilities. Those sessions are marked on our website. And again, Siddharth, thank you for doing this on such short notice and really helping us. I want to thank the audience. We have, I think, more than a couple of thousand people who've signed up, and we expect the number to actually increase over the next few hours and days. So thanks again for your interest in this, and thank you for sort of being patrons to this. I mean, it's really reaffirming to see that these themes carry lots of interest for lots of people, not just in India, but at least half of the people, not half, but about 30% of the people who sort of signed up are from outside of India. So looking forward to lots of global participation. And finally, perhaps most importantly, from my perspective, I want to thank the entire Belongg team who's been sort of really tirelessly and passionately working to make this happen over the last few weeks. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much. Last, I just want to cover a little bit of logistics, the high level sort of logistics. The session logistics will be covered separately as sessions proceed. But the big picture is the festival will run from from Friday till Monday. So Friday and Monday are both afternoon tracks. There's a single track on both Friday and Monday with 4 sessions each. We are on that the first track today. The weekend, Saturday and Sunday, are both fairly intense days. We have 2 tracks running in parallel, each of them with roughly 7 sessions. So that should be super exciting. Then as you sort of access these sessions, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. One, please use the questions box. So all of you will see a questions box. All of the participants will see a questions box where you have to write your questions. We have a dedicated person who is going to support the panelists and the moderator in just curating really interesting questions and queuing them up for the speakers. Do not use the chat box. We will be disabling it in certain cases just to keep comments manageable. So use the question box, that's number one. Number two, very soon, once the actual sessions start, we will also live stream this on Facebook, on all days, and on Facebook and YouTube on Saturday and Sunday. So do check that out. All recordings will be made available after we edit them. All recordings will be made fully available on our website, as well as some of these recordings at least will be made available on the wire as well. So please have a look. Lastly, I think there are 2 or 3 different ways in which people get sign-up details. Our system, sort of the Townscript system and the MailChimp system, they generate and send Zoom details. So if any of your friends sign up in the coming hours, in the coming days, please ask them to just wait for 30 minutes before pinging us. We've been getting a lot of pings in the last few hours, but the system takes a little bit of time to generate that email. Just wait for 30 minutes after you sign up. So without any more delays, let me just ask Siddharth Varadarajan, who's the founding editor of The Wire, to sort of share with us his thinking around the festival and why The Wire partnered with us, what his thoughts are on the role that literature plays in tackling issues of diversity inclusion. Siddharth, over to you.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be associated with the Belongg Literature Festival and to take part as a founding editor in the inaugural session, to be part of the kicking off of this festival. As you explained, Nirat, and I want to underline for the audience, Belongg as an organization has a wide remit, and one that we at The Wire have instinctively sought to associate ourselves with, because it's Belongg is an organization that essentially seeks to bring discrimination-free services, if I were to use that phrase, and essentially look at and tackle issues of discrimination and exclusion in a wide array of circumstances, obviously in the socio-economic sphere, but with this festival, you at Belongg and we at The Wire as your partner are focusing on exclusion in the field of Indian culture, broadly speaking, and Indian literature in specific, and how to address, first of all, to correct the dominant narrative, as it were, and to see how to remedy this problem of the absence or silence of creativity, of talent, of voices, literature from a vast section of the population who actually, if you were to add up, are the majority. I mean, the people who are excluded are the majority, and this is something which we cannot underline enough. Now, the question of diversity and inclusion has come to the fore over the last couple of decades, but I would say really in sharp last decade around the world. And increasingly in India, people are talking about it, people are realizing the need for this, that in any society which claims to be democratic, which claims to be, or in any organization or field which claims to be representative in some way, the question of inclusion and inclusiveness cannot really be postponed. Now, India has a literary legacy that is as old as its own history, right? The first written words go back to a couple of thousand words BCE. But as with any other civilization, it has inherited all of those, all the fault lines that come with it, which is specifically the exclusion of Dalit Bahujan voices, of women, people of alternate genders and sexualities, writers from the working class and peasantry, religious minorities, and even writers who are not seen as being part of the so-called Indian mainland. And of course, if literature is the history of a culture, then that history is incomplete for having excluded those narratives or not having given those narratives the pride of place that they deserve. Now, at The Wire, we are a media outfit. We are a, our business is journalism. But we understand that good stories are told by those who understand them, and that every story needs to be told. And when we ignore the experiences of those who do not belong to the social and economic privilegencia, so to speak, we effectively contribute to ensuring the continued hegemony of an elite, of an elite that is essentially a class elite, a caste elite. And of course, I will be the first to admit that even as we focus in this festival on the world of literature, the fact is that the world of journalism suffers from the same problem of lack of diversity. A 2019 study by Oxfam and the website News Laundry showed that that nearly 90% of English television news, for example, was dominated by upper caste people in leadership positions. I once took part in a survey about a decade ago when I was at the Hindu, where a couple of researchers at CSDS compiled a list of 200 decision makers in the field of media in Delhi, cutting across English, Hindi, and they found that the presence of Dalits was, I think, hardly one or two, if any. No Adivasis. Presence of Muslims was way below the share of population. Women did slightly better, but were again well below the 50% mark. This is an issue which gets translated when you look at journalistic output. The percentage of women-authored stories, in other words, women byline stories, on the front pages of India's top 6 newspapers was only around 27%. And if you look at Hindi, which Hindi newspapers have a much larger circulation than English, the percentage of bylines of women bylines is only 5%. So clearly there is a process of exclusion that is going on, of marginalization, and I dare say that every media organization and the media as a collective, as a whole, has a moral responsibility to interrogate its own structures and ensure that these inherited frameworks of exclusion do not linger. Essentially, this is above all also a question of doing good journalism, because if journalism is about telling people stories, then how do you tell people stories if you don't have an inclusive workspace of people from all backgrounds who are capable of telling those stories? So I think that we have set the goal for ourselves at The Wire in the last 5 years we've been around of asking tough questions. Tough questions of people in authority, tough questions of people in power, tough questions of the establishment. But there is no doubt that those tough questions have to be also asked of ourselves and the world of journalism, and of course the world of literature, which is the focus of this particular festival. I said earlier that we instinctively gravitated towards what Belong's broad agenda was, and more so in the question of the Literature Festival. When Nirat contacted us to discuss the possibility of us collaborating with this, it was, as they say, a no-brainer. We see this as a very important first step towards reaching the goal of more inclusive literature and discussions about literature in India. And I'm very, very happy to not just be associated with the festival as the founding editor of The Wire, and for The Wire to be a partner of Belongg, but I'm also very, very thrilled to be part of this process of actually launching today's event. Thank you very much, Nirat.
Thanks, Siddharth. Thanks very much for sharing your perspective, and truly value this collaboration. Thanks very much. Okay, so next, if I may ask Jonathan Kennedy. Jonathan Kennedy, who's the Director of Arts at the British Council in India. He also has tremendous experience in inclusive theatre across the world, spent many, many years in the UK with some extremely innovative theatre. So Jonathan, over to you. Would you like to share your perspectives on the festival and why the British Council decided to collaborate with us?
Thanks very much, Nirat, and a very warm welcome from the British Council. We're delighted to have partnered with the Belongg Online Literature Festival. As I'm sure you'll know, the British Council is the UK's international organisation for cultural relations and educational opportunities. And this is echoed in the ambitions of our festival's programme in India for creative expression, international exchange, and the enterprise economy, all of which seem to be imbued in Belongg. To date, we've developed a festival's academy, this festival's programme with Belongg in part, into UK connections with culture grants, festivals digital, and research around the festival's economy, and now our partnership with the Belongg Festival and its first edition. Belongg is premised on literature and film, which imagine new worlds which span genre, gender, ethnicity, faith, religion, and disability. Stories belong to all of us. However, if we are truly to understand the world around us now and build empathy between people from different backgrounds, we must also empower those writers whose voice is too often marginalized. Artistic quality is intrinsically connected to diversity of voices and perspectives, which is why the British Council is so pleased to be the culture partner for the Belongg Festival. I'm struck by the number of arts festivals who, over the past few months since COVID-19 pandemic, have gone online. JLF with Brave New World, Folklore with International Storytelling Festival, NH7 Weekender, the Serendipity Arts Festival have all pivoted to the online space, reaching new audiences worldwide. And now we have another among them with Belongg. During Belongg, we'll be screening 4 short films from the British Council's BFI Flair, London's LGBTQI+ Film Festival, exploring a range of experiences from the LGBTQI filmmaker's perspective, with powerful stories about discovering who you are and standing proud once you know. We're also supporting important current conversations with writers around migrant stories and complex identities, and imagining brave new utopias with while we live through, I should say, COVID-19 pandemic, which is in itself a dystopian story that we are all now experiencing. In response to the changing and evolving COVID-19 situation in India and the UK, the health and safety of our partners, colleagues, audiences, and communities is our top priority, which is why we have responded to the Belongg Festival so wholeheartedly to collaborate online. We understand that this is a very difficult time for the creative sector, and in festivals in particular, they face uncertain futures. Nevertheless, we firmly believe that culture connects us, and at this time of uncertainty, creativity and collaboration binds us together. Now, this time, this is more important than ever. So the British Council reaches out across digital frontiers, national boundaries, in solidarity with the many inspiring writers and artists in India and Belongg and beyond that Belongg has curated for this festival. We hope this weekend that we all find somewhere during the digital festival where we all know we truly and securely belong. And so with all that said, I'm delighted to hand back now to Nirat to open the festival. Nirat, over to you.
Thanks very much, Jonathan. Indeed, absolutely exciting to partner with the British Council, and can't wait to see the films tomorrow. So thanks for that. All right. So with that, I think we can sort of formally consider the festival kicked off. Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, Jonathan, for your remarks.